Hello everybody. We are in this moment and we're talking about condensation. Then it goes down, precipitation, that water right there. And then evaporation. You could see it. You can see the evaporation, right? On video. So what is that? That's the cycle of clouds, right? The cycle of clouds. Actually, the cycle of water. It's the cycle of water and the cycle of clouds, but primarily the cycle of water. Water cycles. Water takes a new form, right? Just like everything else takes a new form. I take a new form. You watching takes a new form. When we age, our body degrades. That's us also taking a new form. If we break our arm, if we maybe lose our legs, you could say that's also, taking a new form as well, right? We're here on this planet and we're taking new forms constantly like that. Within the blink of an eye, we're always taking new forms. And that's essentially what death is. Death is taking a new form, right? So I'm gonna find a place to sit. And if you know me, you know that I look at death as a good thing. I think death is a great thing. But society doesn't think it's a great thing, right? Like, because of our human nature, we've created such societies to where it then therefore pushes conditioning by the mind, where people just live in their minds, right? They perceive everything with their minds. They live in it's like they live in a bubble their whole lives, right? A lot of the things that, society promotes, it's like, if something goes against your identity or your ego, then you should get hurt by that and you should be upset by that, right? If something isn't going your way, and of course, that pertains to your identity and your ego again. It always goes back to your ego and your identity when, something isn't going right. That's why it's like all the pain that is caused is by your mind and is by your identity, and basically by your impurities is what causes the pain in the first place. So I look at death as a great thing because why? Because I see it as how everything else is taking a new form and is taking a new body and just constantly cycling, right? Like I said in the beginning of this video, we're going to be constantly, through this human experience, we're going to be constantly taking a new form, and it can even be on like a smaller level, on a smaller aspect or a smaller scale, to where, okay, maybe we trip and on our way to work and we sprain our knee, or we even if we just bruise up our kneecap, right? That's a new form that we have decided to just take on. And we haven't decided to take on, but it has been given to us. It has been subscribed to us, right? There's a lot of flies. There's flies for days out here, and I wasn't prepared, but I thought that I needed to make this video right now. So We're constantly shifting, we're constantly taking new forms, and so is everything else. The water, clouds, human beings, plants, animals, right? Plants and animals, even like on a smaller scale, it's like, what are they doing to take a new form? Well, they could, get attacked by a predator animal, by an apex predator, or by a larger, more threatening animal that's, their predator basically, right? Or, if we're going to talk about reproduction, then that animal might find a mate, and then they might reproduce and create offspring, to carry on their genetics, to carry on that lineage, right? And that's basically another way of looking at taking a new form and taking a new body, basically. But it's the same energy, it's the same energy force, it's the same source or the soul that is behind the puppet that's being orchestrated to create the play of life, to create the flow of life and the flow of creation, right? So, water has been cycled for maybe since the beginning of this planet, right? And it's only going to continue to get cycled as long as this planet is here, just like as long as we are here as a human race. We're going to just keep cycling ourselves. We're going to keep reproducing. We're going to keep, putting our bodies, our vessels, our globs of meat through use and through just wear and tear, basically, like everything else does. When you're in this, you're taking a physical form, you're taking a physical body, right? And which is playing the expression of the source that is behind everything here. So I look at it as a great thing, but society doesn't. And it's not necessarily that you're a selfish person if you're upset when like your family member dies or your friend dies or you die. It's not necessarily selfish because maybe you can't help it in that moment. Maybe you don't know any better. Maybe you can't really see the greater picture, the grand scheme of things, right? Because you live in your mind so much. You live in this frame, the mind, right? It's a frame that we step into to just kind of perform better as a human being in society, and to operate more efficiently, more effectively when we're playing these roles like Monopoly, or we're doing role play in society and we're playing these characters, right, in everyday life. So that rhymed pretty well, but at least I think it sounded like it did. You see, like the mind is it's reflective. It has its own grasp, its own concept, on time. Like it has its own grasp on its own time. It has its own time set. The ego mind has its own time set. If you were to detach from your ego mind, the time is completely different compared to the time that's set with the mind when you're living in your mind, or the ego, right? The times are completely different. You step outside of your mind through meditation or from detachment, and the time that's set is completely different from the time that's set with the mind, in the way that the mind perceives its own time, right? So there's dual play, with perception of the mind, perception without the mind, right? So everything in the society is backwards. Everything they tell you to do, you shouldn't really do, or maybe it's not completely true, because a lot of what is promoted is it's promoted because there are motives behind what is being promoted, right? That's what society does as well. There's motives behind what everybody is promoting, even on all these YouTubers, all these influencers, right? They're promoting what they're promoting because most of the time, majority of the time, there's a motive behind it that has to do with serving their identity that they're so identified with, that they're so resembled with, right? Little do they really know they're probably promoting whatever they're promoting to serve their image and to serve the way that they're being portrayed, or to try and just make things easier for themselves on a day-to-day basis when they're living in society. And that's what coping basically is, right? Just to navigate their way more smoothly, right? A lot of people are selling things to benefit themselves, or they're doing it for some sort of hidden, agenda or motive behind it. So, what does death feel like? So death is one of those things that's just always going to be in the gray area, right? Or in the unknown, like ghosts or Santa Claus or aliens or multiple different planets or multiple different universes. It's always going to be in that gray kind of unknown sphere or paradigm, right? Because why? Because this human experience, right, being alive is an experience that's in this human experience. It's always going, most of the time it's always going to be perceived by the mind, right? So what I've found is that the higher you are in consciousness, right, the more detached you are from your ego, from these worldly attachments, from your mind, from your mind, from your ego, from these attachments that keep you kind of grounded into this society and this human little experience. This God expression, it's an expression of God as well, this human experience, just like everything else of life is on this rock. But the higher you get in consciousness, the higher you become in consciousness, self-realization, the more detached you are from the ego, from the mind, from the materialist, from the mind and from the ego. The higher you get, right, the more of a smoother experience it's going to be when you physically die, right? The more of a drift and sort of smoother and more calmer, more easygoing, more of a smoother transition it is to cycle to the next, or to pass on to the next life cycle, into the next experience when you physically die. Because when you die, when your body physically dies, but your mind or your ego dissolves with the body. Your ego dissolves, the body dies, it cuts off, then in real time, simultaneously, your your ego dissolves. It cuts off with the body, right? The more higher you are in consciousness, the more detached you are from this human experience, right? The less desires you have, the less attachments you have to this human little experience, to this mind, to the materialistic possessions, the money, all that stuff, right? That doesn't carry on with you. The more of a smooth transition it's going to be once you finally die, once you physically die, right? But the more low you are in consciousness, right? The more lower you are in consciousness, right? The more lower you are, the more unrealized you are, unconscious you are, more attached to your identity, your ego, right? These materialistic little things that don't really matter, like the money, your little car, your gaming PC that looks so cute, right? That's sitting on your desk. How many subscribers you have, how many, these YouTube plaques on your wall if you're a YouTuber and have 1 million subscribers. The millions of dollars in your bank account if you have that, all the Star Wars books that you have on your shelf, right? You're just attached to all these things that are, stealing from your energy force, and they're stealing from your consciousness, essentially, right? The less you have, the more you actually have, right? Spiritually. Like, the lower you are in consciousness, the lower you are in general, the more attachments you have that are based around the mind and the identity and the ego, right? The more intense, right, the more drastic the experience is going to be once you finally die. It's going to be way more intense. It's going to be way more of a drastic difference. It's going to be way more of a drastic, intense, powerful experience when you're transitioning out of this body when you physically die, because you're so low in consciousness, you're so low in self-realization, you're so impure, right? You still have all these impurities that are cutting you off from your true, the infinite source, right? You're so dulled, you're so low in consciousness, so when you die, it's gonna be like super crazy hyperspace, right? Like, it's gonna be like, whoa, right, when you die, because you're so low in consciousness. And then there's just so much chemistry, and there's just so much like brain activity, and physical chemistry that's just releasing and getting unlocked when you're physically dying and you're physically getting cut off, right? But if you're like super high, right, you're super high in consciousness, you're super pure, yet you don't have any of these impurities, or this the sin, you could say the sin, the 7 deadly sins that are cutting you off from your infinite source and your higher and truer nature. Then death, you're pure, you're not impure. Well, death's gonna be very easy. It's gonna be very smooth. It's gonna be a very easy transition from this body to the next form, from this form to the next form, right? Because like I said, majority of this human experience is just based from the mind. It's perceived by the mind, especially by and I'm talking as well with like just the collective, the main demographic of society. So I don't know if those are wolves out there, but I think this is time to wrap up the video, because I want to make another video. I don't want to get eaten. So I think that was it. Let me know, I'm looking forward to death. I think it's a gift. And there really is no death. Death is merely just a concept of the mind. The mind created the concept, the limited, these concepts that we create from the mind are limiting concepts that come from a they're limiting concepts that come from the limiting mind, from the body with its limitations. So it's like, don't trust what the mind comes up with or what the mind perceives, because everything is limited in this mind. You're always going to create limited or limiting beliefs, because where does these things come from? Well, they come from the mind, which is ultimately the body with its limitations, as a limitation of the body. So don't fear not. There's nothing to fear there's nothing to worry about besides worrying about itself. And the afterlife, dying, being born, all of these are just mental human concepts, conceptualized ideas of the mind. They're limiting beliefs that are from the limited body with its limitations, right? And then that's what society favors so much. So I know when I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get I might say it on this video, or not on this video, but I might make a video, I don't know when, later down the road, where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna die on this day, I'm gonna die, you guys might feel bad or sad or grieve, but I will know for sure. I'll feel it within myself when I'm gonna go, and I will let you guys know. So thank you guys for watching the video and watching these mosquitoes. This is Rin here. Hope this video really helped you. Thank you for sharing this moment with me on this beautiful evening. So I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. And this is Rin here, Rin the Moment. And yeah, see you guys.